All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the American Rescue Plan recipient session, A Pathway to Healing. We are excited to have you all join us for this session during the ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. My name is Mia Strickland, and I'm the Director for the Division of Program Operations at ANA. I'll serve as the facilitator for this session. I'll be sharing some instructions on how you can interact during this session, and I will be supported during the session by Mardella Richardson, who will serve as the room monitor. Just a few quick housekeeping items before I turn it over to our presenters. If you have questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat box, and Mardella will monitor and record these for the Q&A session. If you have questions during the Q&A session, please raise your Zoom hand located at the bottom of your screen and submit your questions in the chat box. We will try to get to as many as possible. In addition, we appreciate your feedback and thoughts about this session, and you can give us your feedback by taking a survey at the end of the presentation. I will provide the link at the end of the session. And just as a reminder, all workshop sessions are being recorded for on-demand viewing via the ACF 2022 Indigenous Programs Conference website. And they will be available for 30 more days until April 25th, 2022. So please visit the live agenda page if you'd like to view these recordings after the conference. And before we begin, I would like to turn it over to Mark Allender, ANA's Training and Technical Assistance Manager, who wants to make an important announcement to our ARP recipients.
Hey everyone, welcome to this session, and we're really excited to have you, like Mia said, and we are always very excited for some of the opportunities that came with the American Rescue Plan. Some of you might know that we just celebrated 1 year of the American Rescue Plan, and we saw something at ANA that we've never seen, which was a $20 million one-time non-competitive funding for Native languages. And you all are the recipients of that. So one of the things that we thought we could do in both celebration and capturing, what the impact of these funds on communities and the non-competitive funding is, we're hoping to get a couple of quick testimonials. So most of you probably received an email today from your program specialist. If you didn't receive it today, I'm guessing you will receive it shortly, or after, maybe even tomorrow. But in that email, there is a link to something called the video ask. In the video ask, it basically is a quick way to just record. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your computer, your laptop. You don't need to download any kind of app or anything. It's just a quick way to, we have a couple questions that came in the email, just so you guys can preview what the video ask is going to actually ask. Basically it's a really, really simplistic way to just kind of say, the first question is, why did you apply for ANA funding, for the ARP funding? It will give you 90 seconds to kind of record yourself, and you can kind of re-record. And if you don't like the first version, you can do it. And you can do that for each of the 4 questions. So we're hoping to get some of the voices from the communities that we serve, so we can kind of capture what these funds did for Native languages. And if you want to do it and you're having any kind of trouble, we do have a support email address on the email that you'll be receiving from your program specialist. A gentleman named Taylor Hodges will be able to walk you through if you are having any issues. If you go to the link, there's a video on how to record. If it's a quick presentation, it might take you 5 minutes to do everything. So I just want to kind of put in a plug for hoping that, being the ARP recipients, that you might give us 5 minutes to kind of let us know how these funds, impacted your community. And with that, I will turn it over. And thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. So let's get started with the workshop. We are so excited today to hear from our panelists. And coming off of the COVID-19 plenary, we all know that the global pandemic has disproportionately impacted Native American communities, many times more than the national average, with infection and mortality rates. But our tribal leaders, our healthcare workers, and our community members have been resilient and pivoted successfully to protect our elders and our at-risk community members. And I've been really inspired by how some of our native language grantees have, actually seen increases in language curriculum development and instruction. People are able to attend virtually, and that's just been a wonderful silver lining. And perseverance and resiliencies are key to perpetuating and protecting our Native American and Pacific Island cultures, languages, and communities. We've heard from many language recipients over the years how learning a native language makes community members more resilient and can provide a pathway for healing. So now I'd like to turn it over to our panelists with representatives from ANA's Western, Alaska, and Pacific regions. Katrina Miller is the Language Program Manager for the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. Robert Kakaruk is the Language Coordinator for the Non-Dalton Village in Alaska. And this ARP grant is their very first one that they've ever had from ANA. So we're excited about that. And last but not least, we'll hear from Okanesha Faula Manela, the Director for the Samoan Studies Institute at the American Samoa Community College. Each presenter will speak for about 10 minutes each, and then we'll have ample time at the end for Q&A. So Katrina, please begin. Thank you.
My Indian name is Akira, and my English name is Katrina Miller. I'm an enrolled member of the Yakima Nation, which is probably about 2 hours away here from Hamilton. I'm also a descendant of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. This is about my 3rd year here at the language program, 2 years as the program manager. I do have an AA degree. I have a bachelor's degree in Medical Studies for Language Arts and Social Studies, and I have a master's degree in Educational Admin for Program Management. And just to share, probably some of the challenges that I had and my team had endured was, I was probably in my position for about 2 weeks, and we had to go home. I thought we was going to be home for 2 or 3, months maybe, but not a whole year. And after a year, we kind of got to come back as a skeleton crew. But one of the important things that my supervisor was that we made sure our master speakers and our elders were safe. They couldn't come to work at all until it was really, the coast was clear. Because, we have very minimal speakers here, probably less than 10 fluent speakers for the Umatilla, Walla, and West languages here. And so my team with the language and the archivist, when we seen the grant, the linguist had recommended that, we should digitize the recordings that have been put away for a long time. And mind you, this program started out in '96. So, the recordings been, accumulating. I was looking at the list here. So there's about 278 materials that needed to be digitized. And so, and part of the process too is finding or locating a professional recording corporation. And our technologist, she probably did about 7 references, and we went with a company with George Blood because he had experience of digitizing the materials. So that was what we wanted to do, is digitize everything. And the grant that we're in, we did teamwork on it. And So of course we applied, and there was the wait. And, are we going to get it? Is it coming? We all kept just checking around, and finally, we got it. And which was nice is because we got a little bit more than what we had expected, which it opened the doors up for a little bit more. So the grant basically was for digitization and to hire a translator that will translate the recordings as they come in. And his name is Thomas Monigal, and he has a lot of knowledge of all the three dialects and around the area here for speaking the language. So right when we got all the information, the notices, mind you, we're working from home too. I don't know, there's this, COVID came and, things were canceled for a year, but we have this one event here called the Penalty Roundup. And so, of course, I went, but there was a big outbreak after, the festivities, and I was one of them. So, I got COVID, right when, all of our information was coming in, meeting times. And so I was out probably for about a good 3-4 weeks. And then my coworker, the archivist, which is working on, the inventory, she got COVID. And it was like, oh no. And so we were, because our materials are at another building, at the governance building. So the archivist there that my coworker was collaborating with, she got COVID. And so, it just really slowed down the process. And the other probably challenge too was, going through the process to hire a transcriber, language speaker. So that was an obstacle that we had went through. But the list here that, when I looked over it, I swear I got like goosebumps. I got so like, wow, because, these elders that are recorded and all these documents or, materials is history. It's the elders that, are left behind, the songs, the language, teachings. And so I'm pretty excited to hear everything, when it gets digitized and translated. And, with these recordings, it's allowing our people now to hear, what has been recorded. And one of the latest ones is probably from 1979. And, we can hear their voices. We can, maybe listen to the dialect might be a little bit different. And so that's, I'm just, I'm so thankful for, EMA for allowing us, that we got a grant to do this. And it's history that's going to be coming alive, the voices, and, the people can, listen, they can learn songs, dances, how maybe ceremonies are, conducted. And so we sent our stuff off probably in December. I don't know, maybe just last month we sent everything off, because, it was cold and rolling. We finally got all of the materials over here and we sent them off. So now we're just waiting for the materials to start coming in and to start to get digitized. And once they're digitized, we're in an archive and available for the community, for the people. So that's just what the grant has done for us, and for for the communities. I don't know, just as the program manager here, I'd like to have materials for the community. So, they want to learn the language, they want to learn the culture, they want to learn the traditions, because that's just, way of life, I put in there, I have a love for language and culture. And so I just want people to be, inspired and to, I can't do this alone. I have my team, my coworkers, we're about a staff of 11 people. Yeah. So we have other than our project here, we're in the schools, and the pandemic really pushed us to go virtual. And so we did virtual Zoom. We had to learn it. I had to learn it. I was just kind of backwards, but we wanted to get to the people out there with their Zoom classes. Like I said, we implemented some classes in the middle school. We just started immersion school, but that had to be held off, because of COVID. And we have a small class of about 3 students that we're starting out with the immersion program. So, but we have a lot of activities going here. So I just wanted to say thank you for giving me this time to share what I'm doing, what the program is doing, because it's very crucial that we we learn the language and so preserve it, save it, and for the future as well, and to incorporate the technology that we have. That's it.
Thank you, Katrina. It is exciting to know. Yeah, we were having a little hard time hearing you, but it was exciting to know, that the digitization of your curriculum is going to be around for and carry the voices of those elders for many generations to come. So Robert, you're next.
Okay, allow me to introduce myself. Inte Yagledu, Robert Karksha Iji, Denana Athabaskan Echelon Shida, Nuven Dalton, Ayachad Ishu, Shtuta Gala Steve Nolan, Shunta Gala Darlene Nolan, Shunta Tolchina Echelon Shida, Chinapati. And what I said was, hi, my name is Robert Kark. I come from the village in Dalton, and I'm a Denana Athabaskan. My parents are Darlene and Steve Nolan. My mom comes from the Tolchina clan. That makes me a Tolchina clan as well. We're people of the water. We're also a matrilineal society, so you do get your clan from your mother's side, not your father's. And with that, within our clan system, you were never allowed to marry within the same clan. It always had to be the opposite clan. In the state of Alaska, there's 9 different culture groups. So in the state of Alaska, there's 22 different native languages and about 41 different dialects. And Athabascans, there's 11 subgroups of Athabascans. Like I said, I'm a Dena'ina Athabascan. There's Atna, Degatan. So Athabascans, we have actually 22 different languages, 11 different languages and 22 different dialects. And it is somewhat like Spanish, I guess. There's a common ground to where we call understand each other, but they are also very different. I was born and raised in my village. My dad is actually a Hawaiian. He comes from Maui, and I don't know what the chances were of my dad coming from a small island in the middle of the ocean and my mom coming from a small village in the middle of Alaska, how they ended up together, but they did. I started dancing when I was about 7 years old. We had a dance group here in the village, and I was always interested in our culture, our languages, so I'm very honored to be part of this project. Right now, we are just getting all the resources we can for our language because a lot of the elders, my parents said, going to boarding schools, they were not allowed to speak the languages at all. In fact, our main language is English here, but we're slowly trying to bring that back. Our village is about 180 miles away from the nearest city, and the only way in or out is by plane. So our COVID exposure was somewhat limited here due to that fact. The only way in or out is by plane. Now, we did have cases, but we didn't lose anybody due to the pandemic, so thankful for that. And I actually have to give our travel administrator quite a bit of credit because there's several different airlines that comes to our village, and she tried to arrange it to where no one was allowed to come to our village unless they had a written letter from our tribal council. Now, of course, a lot of people didn't listen, so we did have cases here in our village, but for the most part, it was pretty limited to the COVID exposure. I'm not sure what else you would like me to talk about, but our village, it's the traditional name is Newvin Dalton, and that translates to in between two large lakes. Now, it's very remote. As I said, the only way in and out is by plane. There's no roads to go to any of the cities in Alaska. So majority of our food and everything is flown in by plane. And our gas prices here are like almost over $7 a gallon now. And it's a lot harder to get things here. So we live very modernly, but we also live very traditionally as well. So in the state of Alaska, as I said, there's 9 different culture groups, and those are Athabascan, Inupiaq, Yupik, Chupik, Aleut, Alutiiq, Tlingit, Tsimshian, Haida, and Eyak. And they all have their own different ways of living off the land. As you know, Alaska is a very, very big state, so each culture group has their own unique way of living off the land here. In the state of Alaska, I'll say about 22% of the population is actually Alaskan natives. And I'm not sure what else you would like to hear. I'd love to answer questions, but due to the fact of how remote we are, our COVID exposure was very, very limited.
Well, that's good news to hear, Robert. Since this is your first ANA grant, I guess we were just wondering how this project will bring about healing for your community. Didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, we haven't had a language coordinator or teacher in a very long time. So this is actually really great, we have several people recorded and but our language, I wouldn't say it's lost, but it's definitely been watered down due to Russian influence, because there's a lot of Russian influence in the state of Alaska, and also Western civilization influence. So our language has been watered down throughout the years. So, this is a great thing to be part of. I've been talking with a lot of elders and doing a lot of recordings, just trying to strengthen our language back up. I'm going to be teaching the kids at our school here. We only have maybe about 20 students in our school, from kindergarten to high school. There's only about 100 to 150 people in our village, depending on what time of the year it is. Summertime, there's more people here, to do fish and whatnot, but our village is very small. And so this has been great. I'm going to be teaching the kids at our school here, and we have a program called Never Again in English. Just basic everyday phrases that we'd use when we're trying to make, have the kids not saying English anymore. And so yeah, this has been a great project to be part of so far. We have a lot of recordings, documentation, and I'm just really excited to help our community with this. It's truly an honor to be part of this project.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll have time for more Q&A at the end. Now, our next presenter is from, I said, the American Samoa Community College. So from far away in the Pacific, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Oh, and then just Talofa. And warm greetings from American Samoa, the only U.S. territory where summer lasts forever. I'm very humbled to share with you our grant and how it will help with the healing process in all aspects of not just with the pandemic itself, but with due to modernity and the changes, which makes it hard for small communities like Samoa to survive, it is vital that we play a major role in ensuring that there is healing involved so that perpetuation of who we are as people can continue even when we passed on. There is still hope for such. However, before I go into detail of what our proposal and our project is about, I just would like to acknowledge with much gratitude and whawhakaitele, the administration of the ANA for mentioning of Mia and also Matt and Rosia, for the opportunity that was provided for us, the Samoan Studies Institute, to put up and to bring forth this proposal, which to me personally, it came at a very good timing because now COVID finally hits the shores of Tutuila. And the challenges that we are faced with from people's attitudes to the lockdown, to the protocols. And so to hear what the other presenters have said, you know, people don't listen, but we're having all those issues as well. And to also fight the change where we don't go to office, to work from, these are all the challenges that I know in where you people are at, you have passed, but for us, we are now working on it, and hopefully our small territory can come around to realize that, you know, we have to know how to live with the COVID-19. This Samoan phrase, e loa oe laungangana, has very much profound meaning to any Samoan person who has the heart of a Samoan, so that you don't really have to speak Samoan to feel Samoan. It's something that comes from your heart. And language defining you are, and how you also use language, you know, the connotations of this phrase in Samoa has very far-reaching, very deeply rooted in a person's history, in a person's family, their land, and even their position in the Samoan society. By how you use the language defines your person. And so there is also a great expectations from the society that if you tell who you are as a person and your last name, immediately people already have preconceived ideas on the type of language that you are going to use, and also how that then would very much, you know, it should all fall together. Taking, for example, if I am to take on a Matai title, chiefly title, I should already know the language of the chief. So that it's a language that is not only filled with the beauty of the language itself that you find in proverbial expressions and whatnot, but also the tone, the sound, that it has to have that passion, it has to have that alofa that comes with it. If you are the chief, whereby, of course, as leaders, you must have that compassion for your family. So, being given this opportunity to do this community program for us, we felt that as an institute that we felt that this was a very appropriate title. And since we have started, we're seeing it already. So if you are on the second slide, where then So why is this language, why is this title so important and so appropriate for what we're doing right now? For the Samoan Studies Institute, we're about 14 years old. We were established in 2007. And we have 4 areas of focus where we provide a degree in Samoan Studies. We do community outreach. We also do research and publication, and then we do translation. And as young as we would like to think we are, we're only 14 years old, but we have had some very profound experiences. They're real and they're also painful, because we got to have firsthand experience of finding out when we went to the community that the usage of Samoan language is deteriorating. So on the PowerPoint, there's a book down at the bottom that it's called My Village. We did a community outreach for that particular village. And this is when we were trying to tell the children, the students, if they can write something historical about their village. And we taught them the process of how to do research on her and then to write it out. We taught them in Samoan. But when we received all the end essays and products, the 32 stories were all written in English. And so as an institute, then we had to translate all these English essays from the students into Samoa, because our perception, though, as an institute is that let's try and get wider audience to read, so that the book, as it was published, and this was a project we did in 2016, it was bilingual. That's the approach, because we are very much aware at the same time that, you know, we're Americans, but we're also Samoans, and we really need to find that balance, and at the same time provide as much as possible the bilingual approach, so that there's a wider audience who can read. And at the same time, because we are learning from these community outreach that we do, that the younger generations have greater preference of speaking, writing English. Twice we have done outreach at our juvenile detention center. That was also another very painful experience for us, because we get to see the fabrics of our society deteriorating, it's decay. And we find it with these children that find it so hard to express themselves in Samoan, cannot also express themselves in English. So it was a major challenge for us there. And as to why we also realized that when we went to them is that then our approach was to teach them the basics of Samoa language. And then we also taught them Samoan history, so that we could instill in them some pride in who they are as people, and that, you know, with the choices that they make, the choices that their families have made, it's really, you know, it's a choice that they also need to know that you can go the other direction and you can do well if you just try and have these basic skills that will allow you to become a better citizen. And so to try and instill in them that pride, we collected some of the work that they have written for us, and we put it into a small booklet, and we gave it back to them at the end of our project. And this is to remind them that they are Samoans, and that that there is always hope. And this is to deal with our juvenile detention center. We have been to our correctional facilities, the adult, 3 times already. Before how we went in, it was one of the programs was not able to go in, and so they asked, and to me it was an opportunity. So when we went in, and because we were teaching about salutations of our villages, and also telling stories of historical stories and whatnot, they got to enjoy it. And then we did a lot of also the sharing, and it goes back to trying to instill in these people the pride in themselves, and to become better people. So for last year, when we completed our outreach with our correctional facility, we did something that was out of the extraordinary, whereby per their request, they wanted us to perform, they wanted to learn how to conduct an Ava ceremony. And this is when visitors come into the facility. So we did the whole 9 yards of it. And they were, Mia, you should have seen the change, because for me personally, when we went through the trial, when we went through it, the practice, and then after I gave some feedback, and I said to them, well, it would be nice if you cut your hair, and please. And so on the actual day, when there was, when we invited the director for the Criminal Justice Department here, and also the commissioner for our police department, and two who were ministers of church ministers, for me to walk there and to actually see these men, clean shaven. They look, you wouldn't even think that they're actually inside a correctional facility, but they actually, to see that change. So, but that was one of the highlights. Again, connecting to what we're finding and why the Eloa Oilangangana being funded. Thank you so much, because all these things that we're learning and now being provided with the opportunity to continue and to help out in healing in so many ways, other than, of course, with the pandemic. And this is for the project itself. We only have 2 outcomes. And if we are to do a survey on the islands of American Samoa, you would find that 90% of families will only have the Bible in Samoan language and a hymn book. And then maybe some newspaper article in the Samoan language. But to actually find books that are written in our language, not really, which is why what this project is doing for us, which I believe is it's a very positive thing to do, is that because we're giving out these books to them for free. And so not only it's part of the workshop resource material, but in the end, they get to keep it. And at the same time, for them to write things that we can actually put into a publication. So that's the end of the 3 years, is that we would have a book series that deals with this particular topic of your language defines who you are. Indeed, we speak Samoan. Many would say that 90% of us here, we all know Samoan, speak Samoan. But one of the things that we have already learned, and we find it also with our teachers in the public and private schools here, they would have great preference of teaching Samoan culture, but they don't want to touch the language. And it has to do with its, because of, you know, the involvement of the critics and whatnot, the rules and the grammars that all those with the language they're not so sure about teaching. So they have great reluctancy to teach. And so was one thing we have also find and struggle with our community outreach. People write as if they are speaking. And then there are also a lot of common mistakes that are not supposed to be in writing. But this is what happened when the foundation of teaching Samoan language is not well taught. So by doing this, that I do know it will help with the healing, is reminding Samoans of who they are. And it deals with their language, it deals with their identity. It also to remind them that they are resilient, that they have been around, you know, for so long. And so thank you very much for listening. And to conclude, yes, your language defines who you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanisha. Really appreciate it. And all those who have presented. Okay, we can open it up for Q&A at this time. I don't know if there's been any in the chat.
There are no questions in the chat box at this time.
Okay, everyone, we are in the settings for this meeting is that you will be able to either take yourself off video if you want to speak, and also you can unmic yourself. So I will open it up in case anyone has questions for the panelists, or if you would like to how your art project is bringing about healing for your community, is providing a pathway for healing for your community. If you want to share, we'd love to hear from others as well.
Yeah, there's a question from Anthony, I can't see his whole name, Anthony Lonefight, and it says, how do you motivate kids in learning language?
Anthony, do you have any particular one you want to answer that question? Or do either one of the panelists want to take that question on?
Can I just unmute myself? Well, I think I got, I mean, from that woman from Samoa, the idea that their kids didn't know. I mean, and it's that point where you have, excuse me, where you have a generation that knows and a generation that doesn't. And that is a real hard thing to see. And I was just wondering, how do you motivate the kids when all they see is American TV, all they have is English or other sources of things coming at them? And we've had kids ask us a specific question: why should I learn this? And when you just say, because this is your culture, that doesn't always mean anything to somebody who's 10.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand what all that, excuse me, what all that connection is. So I was just wondering, as I heard her talk about this situation, how do you motivate them? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. This is what worked for us when we went to the juvenile. It's always emotional for me, but the first thing we do is it's their names, before we went in, I get the list of the names of the students in there, and they all have Samoan names. And if they have English names, definitely the last name or their surname is either Tongan, or Samoan. And this is where I use my history background. I'm a history major, because I know bits and pieces of stories about, because this is one typical Samoan, or I would say traditional societies where naming of their children are important. So they are named because of a particular event that happened, or because of a family, and even the name of their land, and or even the maiden name for their Matai or their chief. So I do my homework. I make, and then when we went in, and then I start talking about them. And so, Anthony, you should see how that impact them, because they even have taken, for example, some of them are named after, a church minister, usually a very popular one. So I make that connection immediately, and I make that connection to their family and to their village, and that have always worked 100%, because even the last time we were there were 2 Tongans, and I was able to tell the stories of those Tongan names, and they got so proud of that. And that's where they slowly come around to see, and they find interest. So then as we start to go into going with the basics, they already feel good. And then we build that trust that, amongst them. And then that was, but yes, that's how we try and instill the students to be interested in Samoa versus English. And it's just that's how it has worked for us. It has worked for us. But that's one thing that I know that's how it makes it work, is using that identity component and then telling the story of it. Because then they start asking questions. And then, in the end, and then in the end, they would, and I would also make sure I tell, when I call them with those names. Sometimes I don't call them using their first name, I use their surname. So it's a reminder to them who they are. And they will automatically call me by my last name. Interestingly, they will call me by my last name. So, thank you. I hope I've answered.
Thank you. I think a lot of people resonated with your answer.
There's another question in the chat box from Hope McDonald Lone Tree. Is trauma-informed training included in these programs?
Yes, what?
Can you repeat the question, Mardella? And I will ask any of the panelists if they have a response for that question, or if any other ARP recipient has that in as part of their project. It'd be interesting to hear that as well.
Yes, ma'am. The question is trauma-informed training included in these programs?
Trauma. I guess it's okay. When you're talking traumas, as this is the as to why they ended up in the juvie, is that where you're coming from? and whether we include such training in what we do with our outreach. I just wanted to, if it's, I'm sorry, I don't really get what, because honestly, what we have in terms of what we do with these places that we go to is that, no, we don't consider such. We just go in clear and then figure it out as we go along, but we already have a set out curriculum that we would like to achieve. And what we always wanted to achieve is that at the end of our workshop is that the outreach program is that the students are able to achieve what we said. So there's usually our pre and post testing with their skills on language. But mind you, you can't really just teach that without trying to be a bit more holistic in the approach that we do. So I hope, but that's concerning my side. I hope I'm making sense.
I agree, Okanisha. It sounds like your project is very holistic, but your objectives are really just to provide these publications and create more language available in writing, so you can put it into more American Samoan homes, community in their homes. Katrina, did you want to respond?
Yeah, just kind of put it out there. I know one of my goals with the language program is how we can partner with, the programs, for mental wellness, and how we can, work together, because I think that's a healing, for people, just for mental wellness with language. So that's one of my goals too, is to do that. But we're small staff, so we're doing things one at a time. And to answer the question of how the recordings, this is going to be my experience the first time that the recordings are going to be, available once, they get done and completed. So I know we have to do like who can have access, if it's members or other people in the community. And so we're still working on those forums, so who we can share with. But most likely it'll be for, a lot of the members, the community, CTII members. But I'm excited. We're doing it. We're doing our best to, get the language out there and the recordings for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Kim, Zahn, you had your hand raised.
Hi, my name's Kim. I just wanted to ask if all of you, before, I know one of the things I think with any kind of Indigenous or BIPOC community, there's almost like a requirement or work that is done beforehand to build trust with the community or group that you're working in. And I just wanted to know if you guys engaged in that process of building trust and building compassion within the community, and how that worked out for you, or if you already had that trust relationship already established.
Great question. I'll leave it up to the panelists to respond.
All right. Thank you. Trust, yes. You definitely need to have that. One of for us, where we do research and publications of Samoan oral traditions, some of these oral traditions are sacred. And the only reason why the elders have allowed for us to have this written and now published is based on that trust. And for example, the islands of Manua and in Samoa, it's also, its other name is Motusa, which is sacred island. And it's a known factor for Samoans that you don't write or you don't publish Manua stories. Well, the Samoan Studies Institute last year in 2021, we broke through. It wasn't easy. We followed protocol, Samoan protocol. And the protocol is with Samoa is that you have to ask permission. And as hard as it is, you have to ask. And so, and you also have to be upfront and tell them why. And so with us, is that our concern though, as we express to these elders, is that there are none about the Motusa, yet other places are writing about it. We would like to have what we have. And this is for our future generation. And no, we are not going to make money off. And that's our promise. And so we got 15 stories, all in Samoan. We translate them all in English. And then once it was, we were done with that, we gave it back to them. And this is where also the bonding comes in, because these elders are in their 80s and not many of them are good with reading. And they ended up calling some of us their children, because we go back to them and read the story to them, let him hear. And when he says it's okay, yes, you can now, and have my name on it, then that's it. So the trust, yes. And for that's one of the hardest thing. But this is, you know, as a director of the Samoan Studies Institute, we could make so much more money off it, but we're not. Because I said no, we also believe that if we lie to our elders, one of us that will suffer the consequences. But that's, yes, you know, and you have to be upfront, but follow the protocol of your culture, because it's the culture that will also protect you. And you need to know your culture and your protocol, but the trust should never be taken away. That's my reply, Kim.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like with language programs, like for me, I was fortunate enough to have that teaching within my home. But I know so many of our youth are now growing up in homes that aren't safe, that are possibly are filled with trauma and violence and I mean, all of these stacks of things, right? So I know we are a little bit impatient as adults when they seek out other forms of communication like social media, those types of things. But I feel that's also communication that's tethering them to hope, you know? So I'm just kind of, I always try to brainstorm how we're able to find that connection with them, with their culture, with their languages that, and I think it's, and also have them lead that discussion. Like I think they're always being told, this is important. This is this is really important. This is who you are. This is your identity. I think sometimes we have to give them the reins to lead these projects. I feel, I mean, because they are that next generation, and just giving them those reins early on, you know. But I appreciate what you said, and thank you. Na'a Esquili.
That was a great question and a wonderful answer. I know we're just about at time, so I didn't know, I can't see the chat. Mardella, are there any more questions that we should try to answer?
We don't have any other questions. There is just some conversation that's taking place in the chat.
Okay, wonderful. All right, well, since we're at time, I just want to thank you all for attending day one of the 2022 ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. We hope this has been informative and inspiring. Before we depart today, I want to remind you of a few things. Please take the survey with your feedback on this workshop, and I believe it was dropped into the chat what the survey link is. Please continue to visit the ACF 2022 Indigenous Programs Conference website to explore the virtual exhibitor hall. There's some awesome videos that our grant recipients have put together, and you feel like you're transported into their community. So I hope you take the time to visit that. And if you want to learn more about ACF program offices, visit the ACF resources page. So again, thank you everyone for joining this session. There is a networking session after this if you would like to sit in and network with some other fellow recipients. Otherwise, have a good evening. Bye-bye.